Hello, everyone. Today is what day is today? And I don't know, May 12th, 11:15 a.m. Sorry, 15 minutes late. Uh, but welcome, Stealing Property, Episode 2. Um, Aventura, Florida, just north of Miami, a city of sun-soaked palm trees, shimmering high-rises, and golf course views. It's the kind of place where professionals settled in and retirees settled down. In the heart of it all sits Turnberry on the Green, a luxury condominium complex at 19501 West Country Club Drive, overlooking a world-famous golf course. From the outside, it's all manicured lawns, sparkling pools, and a quiet rhythm of high-rise life. But behind the scenes, in the boardroom, a storm had been brewing. At the center of it all was Grigory Arzumanov. To most residents, he was simply the man in charge, the Condo Association president. He chaired meetings, managed budgets, and offered reassurance that everything was under control. But behind the spreadsheets and board minutes, prosecutors allege Arzumanov, then 62, was orchestrating something else entirely, a financial black hole. In his official bio, Arzumanov painted himself as the community's savior. Turnberry on the Greens Association was in disastrous financial condition when I was elected president in 2008, he wrote. The previous management company left our accounts nearly empty. We were one step away from bankruptcy. Since then, we've accumulated $4.3 million in our financial accounts, gaining security for future projects. It's a compelling story, but Turnberry on the Green, with its 28 floors and 378 units, wasn't quite a mega complex. Residents paid an average maintenance fee of $661 a month, contributing to an annual budget of about $3.3 million. A solid, self-sustaining community, at least on paper. But if the numbers were so solid, why was something starting to smell off? And then, in October 2024, the illusion finally collapsed. Grigory Arzumanov, the long-standing president of Turnberry on the Green's Condo Association, was arrested. The charges? Racketeering, grand theft, money laundering, organized scheme to defraud. How does an HOA president get to this point? According to prosecutors, Arzumanov wasn't just the president. He had consolidated power by taking on three critical roles: Condo Association president, property manager, and chief engineer. That meant one man controlled budgets, vendor contracts, maintenance operations, and financial reporting, with virtually no oversight. It turns out there was trouble in paradise, said Miami-Dade State Attorney Catherine Fernandez-Rundle. Quote, in those positions of trust, he had the ability to spend money that theoretically was for the association. But what he did was buy things that we believe were for himself, unquote. Investigators say Arzumanov orchestrated over 80 fraudulent transactions over the course of 3 years. He allegedly siphoned more than $1.5 million from the association's account, money meant for repairs, reserves, and resident services. Instead, it was funneled into personal accounts, disguised behind falsified invoices, shell companies, and carefully timed wire transfers. This wasn't just financial mismanagement. It was, according to prosecutors, a systematic scheme, planned, executed, and concealed from the very people who trusted him to manage their homes. It's easy to assume financial crimes involve sophisticated cyber attacks or mass break-ins, but this was something far simpler. unchecked access, and absolute control. Grigory Arzumanov, the longtime Condo Association president at Turnberry on the Green, allegedly manipulated the system from the inside. No hacking required. According to prosecutors, he had sole signature authority over major financial transactions, delayed audits, kept poor records, and refused to share monthly reports with residents. Consolidated power by taking on multiple top-level roles: president, property manager, and even chief engineer. That combination allowed him to select vendors, approve payments, and reimburse himself, all without oversight. But the real money? It came from the schemes he built himself. Authorities say Arzumanov created a security company, Yuka Security, then pitched it to the board as a cost-saving nonprofit solution. What they didn't know was that he owned it entirely, and he was the only person on its bank account. In 2018 alone, the association paid Yuka Security $384,000, nearly $100,000 more than the previous provider. That company didn't even have the staff to meet promised coverage, so Arzumanov hired residents and part-time workers to fill shifts. Meanwhile, he profited over $1 million through Yuka Security alone. But he didn't stop there. He set up fake aquatic facilities business, billing the association $40,000 for pool services, even though another company was already maintaining the pool. He arranged quarterly consulting fees of $10,000. He used association funds to buy art, groceries, chicken wings, and even flight lessons. Allegedly. All of this allegedly. And in one of the most audacious moves, he allegedly laundered more money through a joint bank account with his deceased mother, writing checks totaling $225,000 for fictitious rent. Prosecutors say he even used aggressive fear tactics, firing employees, issuing excessive fines, and threatening lawsuits to keep critics quiet. The few remaining board members, they say, abandoned their fiduciary duties, allowing Arzumanov's scheme to flourish unchecked. In 2022, he stepped down as president but stayed close to the money, taking an $80,000 salary as the building's chief engineer. Just one problem: he had no engineering license or background. His actual degree, quantum physics. And by the end of it all, Arzumanov had embezzled over $1.5 million from residents of Turnberry on the Green. Not with brute force, but with quiet, calculated authority. All right, guys. So I've just spent a few minutes speaking about a very serious laundering case in Florida about HOAs. HOAs are inherently unsecure. They have a lot of room where people don't understand what's going on. There's opaqueness many times in the transactions across the property, in the transaction on the property over years, and it's very difficult actually to disperse the information effectively, especially when people are churning in and out. Zayuk Safe is a Zayuk Safe is your platform. We provide asset ledgers, we provide inspections, we provide transparency through decentralized budgeting, and also integrating that across everything, your money, your assets. Why are you paying this money for? What is it going to? How are you choosing your vendors? What's the RFP process look like? How are you storing that data? When you invest into an HOA, you're investing into a business, and Zayuk Safe makes it easier for HOAs to organize their business, to organize that money, to provide their residents a proper platform to understand their buildings and to understand their property. So see here below, Zayuk Safe Smart Property System. So we're not just software. We actually come to your property and we do reality capture inspections. We use drones, we fly over it, we check, we create a 3D model, we create a map of your entire property, and we're able to use that across multiple domains in our software so that you understand your property and all of your stakeholders, including your managers, your vendors, your potential vendors, even possibly the city, whatever you may need, or your local municipality, whatever you may need to maintain your property, or whoever you may need to maintain your property, they can have awareness through the reality capture and the model that and the photo imagery that we capture. So we bring the physical to the digital with our digital twins, with our smart property system, as you can check it out here below. So we'll get back to this episode of Stealing Property now. So when a community loses trust, it doesn't bounce back overnight. And the residents of Turnberry on the Green, trust wasn't the only thing missing. $1.5 million unaccounted for, the building shortfalls, budget shortfalls, delayed repairs, looming special assessments. One unit owner, Robert Hills, summed up the mood. Yeah, it's kind of embarrassing to see the person who's been leading your building be handcuffed and hauled out of here. Hill had rented for 3 years before buying his condo in May of last year, 2024. He says he fell in love with the building, but when it comes to the scandal, quote, it doesn't surprise me. No, not at all, unquote. The damage here isn't just financial, it's systematic. Arzumanov wasn't just a rogue actor. For years, he was the system, unchecked, unchallenged, and unaccountable. Then came another revelation. This is pretty crazy. That just raised more questions. One news outlet obtained a copy of a $15,000 check issued by the Condo Association to Rabin and Lopez PA, the Miami law firm that initially represented Arzumanov in his criminal case. The memo line, legal retainer, Aventura PD. Sam Robin, Arzumanov's former attorney, said the check and the payment it represents is not for Mr. Arzumanov's representation in his criminal case. It was made during an investigation, and at that time, no one knew who the target was. He claimed the retainer was approved in April 2024, 5 months before Arzumanov's arrest. Robin insisted the funds came from the Association for General Legal Counsel and that no money from the building had gone towards Arzumanov's criminal defense since the arrest, but critics weren't convinced. David Haber, a condo law expert, questioned the decision. Was it legal? Yes. Was it a good idea? Probably not. Robin emphasized the payment had been signed by both Arzumanov and a former board member. And in court, he said, quote, if it turns out that the check was somehow given improperly, I'll refund the money, quote. That refund has yet to happen. Meanwhile, Arzumanov's legal situation deepened. His bond was set at $350,000, which needed a post of $35,000 to walk free. But later, Robin's law firm cut ties with Arzumanov entirely and is now actually suing him. They claim he owes over $54,000, including the $15,000 that Robin says rightfully belongs to the association and will be returned once Arzumanov pays his outstanding bill. Back in the building, residents like Robert Hills remain skeptical. Quote, I'll be a little surprised if his attorney gets any money from Grigori. I have a feeling he won't see that, unquote. And as for any potential co-conspirators, Detective Eli Bontalina issued this warning. You have a small, quote, you have a small window to come forward. If you don't, we'll be at your front door and we'll be arresting you as well, unquote. And with that, it seems that there may have been other people involved with this fraud or embezzlement. It is a standing case. It's actually just over 7 months ago, but it just goes to show how often these issues occur all the time, and it's still a recurring issue today. So what can we learn? Why would someone do this? Well, experts say HOA fraud often starts with what they call narcissism of small power. A board president, often unpaid, almost always begins to feel undervalued, overlooked, and entitled. And with no one watching, temptation creeps in. One unauthorized charge turns into 2, then 10, and the role of public servant quietly transforms into personal cash machine. And the truth is, it could have been stopped. If Turnberry on the Green had systems in place like a transparent digital ledger, multi-party approval for large transactions, and smart contract oversight tied to work orders and receipts, this fraud might have been flagged after a few $100s, not 1.5 million. This is exactly why Zayuk Safe exists. On our platform, every invoice is tied to a work order. Every work order requires photo verification, and every transaction is publicly traceable to unit owners in real time. No backroom deals, no silent approvals, just trustless systems that work. So as of today, Grigory Arzumanov is out on bond. The irony, the money issued to secure his release may be tied to the very funds he's accused of stealing, which is ironic, but not too funny. Meanwhile, the residents of Turnberry on the Green are left to pick up the pieces. Some are considering legal action, putting units up for sale, distance themselves from the fallout, but the damage, financial, emotional, communal, almost, very difficult to overcome. It'll take years if it does happen. But, again, Zayuk Safe. This episode is brought to you by Zayuk Safe. It is very. The HOA system is one that decentralized ledgers, such as crypto, are going to improve. There's really no reason to not have nearly full transparency on RFPs, proposals, and transactions to other unit owners. It's within unit owners' rights to understand, and it's one of the reasons people are so drawn to blockchain systems is because that traceability is in the blockchain. Whatever the distributed ledger, whatever crypto we eventually adopt as a country, and for all countries, whatever crypto they adopt as well, it's so that this opaqueness within our financial systems goes away. And that is the purpose of Zayuk Safe, and it handles that strictly in, today with HOAs, and HOAs have a serious opaqueness problem in how their governance and their transactions work across each other. And Zayuk Safe assists that, makes it easier to distribute information, to organize information, to make sure that you as a community are functioning appropriately and your assets are hygienic and good to go. So thank you, everyone. Episode 2, Stealing Property. Remember, this is brought to you by Safe. Safe is the smart property system. If you live in an HOA, you need this. It is going to help you guys out. If you live in Southern California, or if you're a property manager in any part of the U.S., we also do property inspections that integrate with our system. So you can have a 3D model, an orthomosaic map, all within centimeters accuracy. So survey grade models. And you can understand your roofs. You can distribute those photos to various vendors. It's a huge, huge thing. And so, we can fly out to any place in the U.S. if a property manager has multiple that they'd like. But also, Safe is available in over 40 countries. So multiple countries in Europe, in Asia, of course, in North America, as well as at least one in South America. So over 40 countries are capable of taking advantage of this, and we recommend, take advantage. It's easy for various property managers to, not property managers, anyone in this HOA system specifically, where you have multiple property owners and managers, and those change really dramatically. The stakeholders come in and out. So it's difficult to do vendor turnover, because sometimes one vendor just knows everything about your property. Well, Safe can help your next vendor understand everything your old vendor had. So you need to store that information as it comes in, and you need to store it appropriately, integrate that information. So thank you, everyone. Take care. Have a great day. Sorry if that was loud on the mic. How do I turn this thing off?